Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this Road to Bali webinar ahead of the People's Water Forum in Indonesia next week. We have simultaneous translation available in English, Spanish, and French. So please click the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen to select your preferred language. Please also introduce yourselves in the chat. We've got quite a relaxed agenda today with 3 presentations followed by 30 minutes of question and discussion. So there's plenty of time for you to participate, take the mic, ask questions, connect with panelists and other colleagues around the world. Our 3 panelists are going to share stories of grassroots resistance in the struggle for water justice. They will be talking about countering some of the biggest threats to people's rights to water and sanitation, from privatisation and the extractive industry to crackdowns on civic space. So I'm not going to give a long introduction. Our first speaker is Shan Bajaj from Manusha Foundation, an intersectional women-led human rights organisation based in Thailand. Shan is going to speak about the Chip community's legal fight against an Australian-owned gold mining company that polluted the community's water and environment. So Shan is going to be outlining both the community's local resistance as well as the national and international actions that Manusha Foundation is taking to support the community. So Shan, if you're ready, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be speaking in English, just so the interpreters know and whoever is listening in different channels has a bit of time to go to those channels. Thank you for having me, Sam. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk to you about the Pitcher case. As Sam said, my name is Shan Bajaj. I'm the feminist campaigner for corporate accountability and climate justice at Manusha Foundation. We're an intersectional feminist organization that believes in the limitless power of people, especially communities, and we support communities, and we're based out of Thailand. The work that we do varies on a variety of different human rights issues, including democracy, digital rights, and climate justice and corporate accountability. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the Pitcher community's class action lawsuit against Akara Resources public company. It's a gold mining company based here in Thailand, but they are a subsidiary of the Australian company, Kingsgate. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about how we've supported their case and how we've leveraged water rights to advocate for justice and other rights as well. To provide some context into the case, there's about 6,000 villages in Pitcher and Phetchabun, which is located in central Thailand, that have been severely affected by gold mining operations. The mine has been operating since 2001, and it's located around, the communities is located around 300 meters away from the mine. A lot of the villagers that live there make a living through farming, and therefore they're reliant on the natural resources of the land, including the water. And since the operation has begun, there's been adverse impact on the environment and also consequently the villagers' livelihood, and it's really affected their standard of living. Some of the human rights abuses that have happened since the operation of the gold mine includes the right to information, consultation, public participation, the right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, the right to water, the right to land, the right to an adequate standard of living, the right to health, and the right to effective remedy. Since this is also, the gold mine belongs to a big corporate, villagers who have raised their voices against these violations have also faced a lot of intimidation. So this is where the crackdown on civic spaces comes in. And just to provide more context into the class action lawsuit as well, essentially 300 community members came together in 2014, so that's 10 years ago now, and formed the patient network affected by gold mining. And And in 2016, they filed a class action lawsuit against Takara, the local subsidiary, and they filed it at the environmental section of the Ratchada Civil Court in Bangkok. Their class action lawsuit demanded for compensation for the loss of livelihood and the negative health impacts that they have suffered from, the loss of environment and natural resources. It took 3 years for the case to be accepted. It was only accepted in 2019. The hearing since then has been consistently postponed because of COVID and also because of the tactics used by Akara. The initial hearing was meant to be on Feb 17th to 2020. It was postponed till April and then July and then October and then next 2021 September until 18th November 2021, which is more than a year and a half since from the initial date. And even then it has been postponed and is still at the very early stages of their case. Even after 8 years of the proceeding, they're still the justice is basically being delayed, which is why just the judicial system, but also Akara's lawyers and their strategy is very much delay the hearings as much as they can in order to delay justice and therefore deny justice to the communities. In the meantime as well, the operations at the gold mine have still been running. So there have been continuing effects of the violations. There was a brief period of time where the mine did shut, but Australia used the free trade agreement that they have with Thailand to essentially apply pressure on Thailand to reopen and provide them with new licenses to reopen the mine. And the mine unfortunately did reopen. And due to the class action lawsuit, many of the villagers have faced a lot of slaps and threats, especially community leaders who were speaking out, who were the face of the campaign or the face of the class action lawsuit. Some villagers have died since the beginning of the lawsuit. Others have withdrawn. I think there are approximately 200 villagers left in the class action lawsuit. So about 100 people have dropped out since the beginning. So that's just context around the Pitchett case, so you have a better understanding of the case before I get into campaign strategies. Also, if I'm taking up a lot of time, Sam, just do tell me. To support the class action lawsuit, Manusia Foundation has been monitoring these hearings, firstly, and we've also launched a social media campaign and an in-person campaign, a media campaign in general, called Justice for Pitchett, to create awareness about what's happening, firstly, because a lot of people in Thailand weren't aware. So we've been very vocal on social media and therefore sort of trying to get local communities involved and create more awareness and also action. And social media is a very strong strategy to hold companies accountable, but also hold states accountable. Other than social media advocacy, we've also done in-person campaigning at different events, bringing awareness to the Pitchett case, and we've even written research papers on corporate accountability and climate justice, referring to the Pitchett case. And the Justice for Pitchett campaign in particular focused on providing community members with a platform to have their stories heard from them, and how Chathri Gold Mine has severely impacted their livelihood and standard of living. Alongside raising awareness and using social media, we do use the Pitchett case in all of our research and advocacy. And under international human rights standards, we do always state how the rights of the Pitchett community are not being respected. And part of our campaign also was to use water rights, because what has happened is, due to the gold mining operations, water has become really unsafe to drink from or even farm with. And the Pitchett community rely on farming for their livelihood. therefore, it made them really reliant on the gold mine for a source of income, and took away their source of livelihood. A lot of the studies that we have done and that have been done show that the water has been contaminated with heavy metals, including arsenic, and the cause of contamination is a leakage at the storage facility at the gold mine. And we created awareness about this and also used their right to clean water, a right protected by the Thai constitution, to explain the severity of injustice facing the Pitcher community. And while the government and ACAR has agreed to provide water deliveries, the water deliveries are very inconsistent and insufficient. This further leads to a financial strain on the community, water insecurity, and handicapping the villagers' access to clean drinking water. So this is some of the strategies that we've used to try and push for justice. But because of the threat that a lot of the community members have faced, it's really hard to be able to speak up for them and also gain justice. And also because of Thailand's judicial system, and like corporate capture of the judicial system, you do see sort of how Thailand's legal system can be swayed almost. Yeah, so that's an overall of the Pitcher case.
Many thanks, Sean. It's a very good overview of what is a very complex legal case. And I'm sure we'll return to you for questions about what happens next and how you've managed to overcome the legal restrictions that have been imposed as well. But really, really excellent work from Manusha Foundation. Our next speaker is McDonald Munuro from the National Association of Youth Organizations, which is an umbrella body of youth groups working across Zimbabwe. McDonald is going to speak about defending civic space and the right to water in restrictive environments, sharing stories from water and climate justice hubs in Chitungwiza in Harare province. So over to you, McDonald.
All right, good afternoon, Sam, and greetings to everyone that is joining us this afternoon, this morning, this evening, on this very important session where we are sharing on the right to water. My name is McDonald Munuro, and I work with the National Association of Youth Organizations, NAYO. We are a youth organization that is based in Zimbabwe, and we also sit within the committee, within the task team for end water poverty that is championing the hashtag Claim Your Water Rights campaign. I'm just trying to toggle my presentation here. It looks like I'm having a bit of a challenge. All right. So in terms of my presentation, I'm going to look at I'm going to start off with talking a bit about the organization. We're a platform that coordinates, represents, strengthens young people's rights and resources for youth-led and youth-focused organizations to play a catalytic role in promoting youth interest. At the center of that are issues to do with rights, especially those that relate to freedoms of expression, freedom to assembly and association, because these are quite central to the work that we do around organizing, which we also do using peaceful strategies. And we have extensively worked with the hashtag Claim Your Water Rights campaign, which is a global campaign that is working to embolden civil society coalitions. It employs context specific to ensure that we advance people's access to the right water. And then briefly, before I get into the case that we're sharing today, I thought it important to also just spotlight some of the key strategies that we use as part of the #ClaimYourWater campaign, which enforces human rights at the local and the national level. We utilize community mobilization, where we mobilize communities to come around the right to water. We also undertake media influencing, where we work with the media to come up with narratives that speak to the right to water. We also undertake demonstrations, occupations, and protests in trying to push back and demand the right to water. We also engage in elections advocacy, given the centrality of elections to provision. We try to always with member countries where elections, but also elect national human rights institutions where we engage on the right to water. We also undertake litigation various interests and cause that will be dealing direct engagement with the government.
McDonald, we're losing you a little bit. Perhaps you could turn your camera off for now and I'll do the same. See if that improves it. Oh dear, I think we've lost McDonald completely. McDonald, are you still with us?
Yes, I am with you. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's much clearer.
All right, thank you very much. I think speaking to the issues of the right to water, I'd find that according to the Civic's monitor, you'd find that globally, most of the organizing work that we take as civil society, it happens in contexts which are not open, where at the global level, we only have 3.2% of civil society organizing in contexts that are considered to be open. The majority of us, we are organizing in contexts that are narrowed, obstructed, repressive, and also closed. And I think the slide before us gives us a very good picture of how that looks like. And speaking, I'm from Zimbabwe, and I'm sharing stories that are coming from Zimbabwe. And within our country, the environment is considered illegal and policy measures that restrict civil society organizations from organizing. And we also on law to regulate the work of civil society organizations, which is also going to have very immediate existential threats to the work of civil society within the country. Despite working in a context like this, we have been able to undertake some work that is worth maybe sharing as part of this space this afternoon. So most of our work is centered around Chitungwiza district. This is one of the biggest urban districts within the country of Zimbabwe, with a population that ranges between 400,000 to 500,000 Zimbabwean citizens. And the district is a dormitory town. It has had perennial challenges to access to water over the years. Back in 2008, it was the epicenter of a cholera outbreak within the country due to the shortage, due to the challenges on access to water, and also the contamination of underground water, that is water sourced from boreholes and wells, due to frequent bursts in sewer. So the dormitory town has got a very big challenge when it comes to access to water. What we are seeing before us are recent statistics that came out of a survey that we did, which was trying to measure the progress in access to water and buying water, and the remaining 25% and 24% access water from wells and boreholes, and also 18% from residential boreholes. And you'd find that generally the quality of water is not good, with most of the citizens rating it as average, and a few as good and also a few as poor. And I think this gradual improvement goes is some of the work that have been undertaking with the district, which has seen the drilling of boreholes by the local authority. So the district is very important to the growth and development of our country, because it also hosts quite a significant number of citizens. So shortly, I'm going to share with you some of the approaches that we've been using in trying to organize and work around the right to water in Chitumbiza district. So we have combined an array of strategies. The first one, which extensively informed the work that we undertake to this point, has been utilizing the AAAQ framework on the right to water, which tries to assess how citizens in a local area are accessing the right to water on the basis of 4 key areas, which is availability, to say that is water available from their housing unit, accessibility, to say that is the water within a defined distance, acceptability, the manner in which the people are accessing the water, is it acceptable? Also the understanding of the right to water, and lastly, the quality of the water. This human rights framework, and also linking it to Section 77 of the Constitution in our country. It has also gained us audience as a youth organization, Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, and also other state institutions and regulators that are involved in water supply. Also, in terms of our strategy, we also created what we call youth water and justice hubs. These are young people that come from the 25 wards within the Chitumbiza district. Young people lead the activities that we implement within the local authority. They also stay within that respective community. And some of the strategies and activities that I'll also speak to, it is
Sorry to interrupt, McDonald, but we're at time, and I think we've just lost your connection again. So I think there's a lot more, obviously, that you'd like to say. We can come back to you in the Q&A part of this webinar, if that's okay, McDonald. Yeah, I think we're going to have to. Sorry, McDonald. But I'm just so impressed with all of the different tactics that you have employed as NAO, all of the different ones that you've shared throughout the screen. You've got community mobilization, occupation and protest, litigation, direct engagement with government. It's such a thorough and holistic approach to both addressing water rights concerns, but also civic freedoms and social and political rights. So really impressive work. Our final speaker before we go to the questions and answers is Fermin Regalas, who is the co-founder and director of Cantaro Azul in Mexico. But Fermin is representing Redes del Agua today. a Latin America civil society network advocating for equitable water management. And Fermin is going to share the network's work to block privatization law in Mexico. So Fermin will be speaking in Spanish. So English speakers, you can please use the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen to select the English channel now. Thank you. Over to you, Fermin.
Muchísimas gracias, Sam, por invitarnos a participar en este espacio tan interesante en el que compartimos la experiencia de México en la lucha por el reconocimiento y la garantía de los derechos humanos al agua y al saneamiento. Primero es importante mencionar que México está atravesando una crisis profunda en relación con el agua y esta crisis es resultado de un segundo, por favor. Esta crisis es resultado de políticas neoliberales que han estado operando en nuestro país por más de 30 años, en particular la creación de la Ley de Aguas Nacionales, que ve al agua como una mercancía y que no genera los mecanismos necesarios para que el Estado regule este bien propiedad de la nación de una manera adecuada. A lo largo de estos 30 años, lo que ha sucedido en México es que pocas empresas y personas han logrado acaparar gran parte del agua, han sobreexplotado las aguas subterráneas y también tanto los prestadores de servicios de agua y la falta de tratamiento de las aguas residuales, tanto en las ciudades como de la industria, han contaminado casi todas las aguas superficiales. Esto pues ha generado una afectación muy grave en términos de salud y de impacto en el desarrollo económico de comunidades y de barrios, de zonas periurbanas en nuestro país. Y en respuesta a esto, en el 2012 hubo un logro muy importante impulsado desde la sociedad civil y representantes de gobierno progresistas que permitieron que en la Constitución de nuestro país se reconociera el derecho humano al agua y al saneamiento. Como parte de este reconocimiento, en la Constitución se mandató al Congreso para que creara la Ley General de Aguas y que esta ley estableciera los mecanismos para la gestión equitativa y sustentable de los recursos hídricos y también para poder crear el acceso, crear los mecanismos para garantizar el derecho humano al agua y al saneamiento. Sin embargo, han pasado más de 12 años en las que no se ha podido generar esta ley, en gran medida por la resistencia que ha habido de quienes están acaparando el agua a través de grupos de interés que operan en el Congreso y que han buscado limitar y detener los procesos legislativos. La sociedad civil y en particular un proceso de una iniciativa ciudadana, logramos hace 3 años llegar a un punto en el que se presentaran 3 iniciativas con una perspectiva de derechos humanos asociados al agua y estuvimos muy cerca de que esta fuese aprobada. Sin embargo, la falta de reconocimiento por las autoridades y estos esfuerzos de bloquear también las iniciativas ciudadanas han hecho que sigamos en esta situación en la que no contamos con un marco legislativo adecuado. En este contexto, las legislaciones en los estados de México han tomado caminos en los que han continuado el modelo neoliberal y de privatización del agua y no han reconocido los derechos humanos. Un caso ejemplar de esto ha sido en el 2022, el Congreso de Querétaro, un estado en el centro del país, un estado relativamente árido, con mucho desarrollo económico, aprobó una ley en la que omitió todos los procesos de consulta de pueblos originarios, los procesos de participación ciudadana, que estuvieron siendo demandados por distintas organizaciones y la población en general, de que existiera un proceso abierto en el que se pudiera participar, para demostrar cuáles son los problemas que está viviendo la población de Querétaro y que estos problemas pudieran ser atendidos a través principalmente de la incorporación de la perspectiva de derechos humanos al agua y al saneamiento. Hubo una resistencia absoluta por parte del Congreso de escuchar a la ciudadanía La ciudadanía se organizó y llevó a cabo manifestaciones pacíficas en las cuales, a través de estas manifestaciones, pues fueron reprimidas por los gobiernos locales y del Estado. Eh, la Defensoría Jurídica de Querétaro categorizó que el Estado utilizó violencia para reprimir a las manifestaciones pacíficas. Y en respuesta a esto, un grupo de ciudadanas y ciudadanos y organizaciones como Cántaro Azul, que tenemos el mandato de buscar la garantía de los derechos humanos, interpusimos 3 demandas de amparo utilizando pues un mecanismo en México que es el amparo, que permite no nada más defender las agresiones por parte del gobierno y sus omisiones, sino también permite tener una defensa legítima sobre las omisiones a los derechos humanos, como el agua y el saneamiento. Estas demandas no fueron aceptadas en las cortes y en los tribunales locales, porque todavía en México no ha habido una incorporación adecuada, ni siquiera en el sistema judicial, de la perspectiva de los derechos humanos asociados al agua. Y entonces lo que hicimos fue apelar a la Suprema Corte de Justicia de la Nación y pedir que atrajera los casos que no estaban siendo atendidos en las cortes locales y que pudiera analizar. En el 2023, la Suprema Corte de Justicia, reconociendo que había habido omisiones claras en el Congreso de Querétaro y en las cortes locales, decidió atraer el caso y lo estuvo analizando durante los últimos meses del 2023 y los primeros del 2024. A finales de marzo de este año, la primera sala de la Suprema Corte de Justicia presentó un proyecto de sentencia a favor del amparo que habíamos interpuesto, que uno de los amparos que habían sido pues atraídos por la Suprema Corte. Y, y en este amparo, en este proyecto de sentencia, dejó muy claro las omisiones en la ley de aguas de Querétaro. En particular, le pide al Congreso de Querétaro que genere una nueva ley que atienda 5 directrices muy importantes. Una de ellas tiene que ver con que se establezcan mecanismos de distribución equitativa del agua en los casos de escasez hídrica. La otra es que se defina qué sucede cuando la población no tiene acceso al agua entubada, cómo se garantiza el derecho humano en ese contexto. Y también qué pasa cuando parte de la población no cuenta con los recursos para pagar las cuotas de servicio y cómo se garantizaría el derecho humano al agua en ese contexto. El, el proyecto de sentencia también le pide al Congreso de Querétaro que genere mecanismos de participación ciudadana efectivos de acuerdo a lo establecido en el acuerdo internacional que México firmó, el acuerdo de Escazú, que es un acuerdo que firman países de América Latina y el Caribe para establecer mecanismos de participación ciudadana en temas ambientales. Y finalmente también le pide al Congreso que defina bien qué va a hacer en temas de saneamiento. Vimos de manera muy positiva, como Redes del Agua y todos los grupos que la conformamos, este proyecto de sentencia. Y también lo que nos sorprendió fue una respuesta muy rápida por el Congreso de Querétaro a los días de haber leído el proyecto de sentencia que iba a ser votado el 10 de abril. el, 3 legisladores de Querétaro metieron una iniciativa de reforma a la ley del 2022 y en esa iniciativa lo que hacían era atender algunos de los puntos que pedía la Suprema Corte, pero en realidad no entraban de manera profunda en incorporar la perspectiva de derechos humanos asociados al agua ni de participación ciudadana. La Suprema Corte, esta iniciativa que meten en sesiones de menos de 3 días, dictaminan la iniciativa, la aprueban y para el 9 de abril ya estaba publicada en el Diario Oficial de Querétaro. La Suprema Corte de Justicia decide no votar sobre el proyecto de sentencia y analizar esta nueva reforma y para nuestra sorpresa genera un nuevo proyecto de sentencia en el que hay un contraste muy grande con lo que se había propuesto inicialmente. y la Suprema Corte básicamente propone avalar estas reformas cuando la participación ciudadana no fue reconocida realmente y cuando los mecanismos que se implementaron en esta ley para los casos de escasez hídrica, lo que hicieron fue decir que cuando existe escasez hídrica, los prestadores de servicios pueden limitar el acceso al agua a las personas a 50 litros al día, pero no generan ninguna limitante para los servicios comerciales o industriales, y esto pues genera un desbalance. Y sabemos en México, pues, donde las instituciones le han servido a grupos de interés, a grupos de poder económico y político, y no a la población, sabemos que si las leyes no son muy claras en cómo establecer los mecanismos de acceso al agua de forma equitativa, pues entonces quienes van a padecer son las personas. Entonces emitimos un amicus curiae, un documento a la Suprema Corte de Justicia identificando estos retos, y hasta ahora el proyecto de sentencia no ha sido votado y estamos esperando a ver a quién responde la Suprema Corte. Si responde a los derechos que tenemos reconocidos en nuestra Constitución y en los acuerdos internacionales, o si responde a las presiones que recibe por parte de grupos de interés.
Muchas gracias, Fermín. Es un trabajo muy impresionante, and really interesting example again of utilizing international law, national laws. And I think the point you raise about, that the reality is that in these cases, often we're fighting against hugely powerful corporate lobbies, and there's a real inequality. But the fact that you've managed to compel the Supreme Court to rule in your favor really shows the power of civil society organizing, despite the odds being stacked against us in many cases. And likewise, the tenacious work of Manusha Foundation in supporting the Pachit community's class action lawsuit, despite all of the years of legal delays and delayed justice, and the work of the National Association of Youth Organizations in Zimbabwe in pushing back on civic space restrictions, on winning a court order for the right and freedom to demonstrate and protest. All of these cases show both the extreme difficulties of the situations that many activists around the world face, but also the power that we have. So thank you very much to all our speakers. I'm aware all of you probably have much more to say. I'm going to open questions to the floor. So if anyone wants to take the mic and ask panelists questions or share your experiences of resistance in the struggle for justice, please do. Timothy, I see you had you put your hand up as well. You had a question in the chat for Sean. Do you want to go ahead, Timothy? And then we'll go to Yoko's after that. Please speak, Timothy. Oh, Timothy, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if that's the same for everyone else. Maybe we'll go to Oyoko and then we'll come back to you, Timothy.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thanks, Oyoko.
Yes. So thank you very much for this webinar, and I think it's been very interesting, the various experiences and struggles from diverse continents and countries. And I think, as you correctly said, some of the challenges are very familiar to some of us, and of course the various strategies that we deploy and the way of organizing, I think, shows the potential for challenging some of some of these issues. So I'm from Nairobi Water Justice working group, which is fighting, and Women Collective Kenya, which is fighting against water privatization in Kenya and in Nairobi. And in particular, we had a successful campaign to stop one of the legislation with the Nairobi County government in last year, which was basically going to privatize water. I would be interested to learn further from the experiences of Mexico in terms of what would be the most critical challenge in addressing issues around water privatization from civil society and community perspectives, and how can that be addressed? Thank you.
Thanks, Ayoko. We'll try to go to Timothy again, and then hopefully the panelists can answer. Timothy, go ahead. I can't hear you, Timothy. It might be you're really quiet, but... No, sorry, Timothy, I just can't hear you. I saw you asked a question to Sean earlier in the chat, which was about if the government had, how the government had reacted to the class action lawsuit against the gold mining company. So Sean, maybe if you could address that. And then PC, we'll go to you if you have a quick question.
Yes, I have.
Sure.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Actually, sorry, PC, we'll go to Sean first to answer the question, and then we'll go back to you.
Okay, no problem.
Sure. Okay, and just one of my colleagues is here as well, Naila. She works with Manusha, and she's the corporate accountability advisor. So if she feels like she has more to add, I'll let her add something after I say it. But essentially, essentially what the government has done to address the issue is not much, unfortunately. They've accepted the case, and for them, I think the sort of acceptance of case and allowing it to sort of go through the judicial court is them engaging with it. I think that's very much their attitude, and I think it also is the fact that because we are a country from the global south, there ends up being a lot of pressure because the parent company is Australian. So I think there's a lot of trade agreements that do play into it, how much the government can say almost, and like what the government tends to prioritize across the region, but also just in global south countries. Yeah, but Naila, if you want to add anything about what the government's response has been, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, hi everyone. So just to complement on this, so indeed the government has not done much. Something that can be underlined though is that in 2016, the government ordered the mine to shut down based on complaints from the villagers and the fact that a lot of them were showing signs of contamination from the water, as blood tests showed that they were contaminated with heavy metal in their blood and urine. And so the mine actually shut down for 6 years. But as Sean mentioned previously, Kingsgate, so the parent company, used the mechanism under the free trade agreement between Australia and Thailand to, well, we can say to pressure the Thai government. And after a few years of this arbitration process, the Thai government finally decided to reopen the mine and grant new licenses, exploration licenses to the company. So it's really unfortunate. And as the mine has reopened last year, there is not much that has been done in terms of making sure that the previous impact prior to the closing of the mine were addressed, and no new impact assessment has been conducted prior to the reopening of the mine. Yeah, so.
Thanks, Noah. That's a really excellent answer, and yeah, shows the difficulties of. I mean, Timothy, you put in the chat a good recommendation of establishing strong relationships with government, but in the case of Thailand, it's been very difficult as they've been essentially, enabling the impunity of the mining company. I'd like to go to Famin for his reflections on lessons of privatisation, and then I'll go to PC and Basilia for your questions, please. So, Famin, just quickly, if you can.
Sí,
Sorry.
gracias, Sam. Voy a hablar en español. En la privatización en México toma distintas formas, desde el acaparamiento que tiene la industria y la agroindustria sobre los recursos hídricos. Esto, por ejemplo, lo podemos ver recientemente hubo una sequía muy fuerte en la ciudad de Monterrey, una de las zonas metropolitanas más grandes de México, y la ciudad se abastece de fuentes superficiales y la industria se abastece de fuentes subterráneas. En México, el agua tiene una prelación en la que supuestamente hay una prioridad para el servicio urbano, pero aquí vimos de manera muy clara cómo cuando llegó la sequía, quienes se quedaron sin agua fue la población en general, y la industria siguió teniendo acceso a las aguas subterráneas y la sobreexplotación de esas aguas subterráneas y la falta de planeación y la falta del funcionamiento de las instituciones hizo que la población no pudiera acceder a las aguas subterráneas. También hemos visto cómo muchas veces la agroindustria, ha sobreexplotado las aguas subterráneas a un punto en el que ya solamente quedan las aguas fósiles que tienen altos niveles de arsénico y de flúor, y que entonces ahora la población tiene que consumir esa agua. Entonces, este acaparamiento y esta privatización los recursos hídricos son utilizados en el corto plazo por la industria para generar grandes ganancias, comprometiendo el derecho humano al agua en el presente y en futuras generaciones de la población. Además de esto, también la falta de una fortaleza institucional en el contexto rural ha hecho que, si bien el agua es de propiedad de la nación, en muchas comunidades rurales, quien es dueño de la propiedad privada considera que es dueño también del agua que está ahí en un manantial, en un río, en un pozo, y no permite a las comunidades que tengan acceso a esa fuente de agua y les cobran cantidades muy grandes. Y ese es un tipo de privatización de una fuente de agua que sucede mucho en el contexto rural por la falta de una presencia de las instituciones que garanticen el derecho humano al agua. Finalmente, tenemos en la prestación de los servicios en México, la gran mayoría de los servicios son prestados por las autoridades municipales, pero hay algunas entidades federativas como Quintana Roo, Aguascalientes, Coahuila y un poco también en Querétaro, donde se han concesionado los servicios a entidades privadas. Afortunadamente, estamos pasando por una etapa política que ha criticado el neoliberalismo y ha visto que la privatización no es el camino para México. Entonces, no vemos mucha presión en términos de privatizar más servicios, pero tampoco vemos a un gobierno que esté creando las instituciones con la fortaleza necesaria para salir de la crisis en la que estamos y realmente gestionar el agua con una perspectiva de derechos humanos. Y sí, eso sería lo que tendría que compartir.
Gracias, Fermin. Maybe I can put you in contact directly with Ryoko, and you can share more lessons in your respective resistance to privatization. I'm also considering organizing a specific webinar on privatization because it's a topic that a number of our members across the regions are working on and opposing. So I think there's a lot of interest in that topic, and it would be good to see how different groups around the world are resisting. PC, I'll come to you, and then Basilia, please.
Okay. I am PC Mishra from Indian Institute of Youth and Development from India. I have some experience in this field since the last few years. We are adopting different methods in the campaign. When we go for a demonstration and protest, we are directly becoming a party, and then we are targeted. When we go to media campaign, it is better for us so that the government accept it. When we are engaging with the duty bearers on the one hand, on the other with the right holders, this as a CSO, when we have both ways, one hand with the duty bearers and other hand with the right holders, it clicks in our place. So I want to learn from other countries which type of thing out of these three, which becomes more effective in their locality, and how the CSO are viewed by the government when we go for campaign, and they understand that we are questioning them. The question is to I need anyone who can guide me. Thank you.
Thanks, PC. That's a good open question. Should any of the panelists want to answer, maybe you can respond in the chat as well. Basilia, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Sam. I just acknowledge that most of these issues happen in different places. I also just want to mention, just like the last speaker, in Ghana, we also use a lot of media campaign to do advocacy. Sometimes when the policymakers are not listening, when the issues are discussed during media forums, they tend to listen. And because media goes wide, and when the issues are discussed on the media, it allows a lot of the citizens to call in and make comments. So very sensitive issues like mining, we use a lot of media to do the engagement. But then, for instance, in Ghana, another issue that is coming up is sand winning. And for that, we are trying to use local authorities or chiefs to do the advocacy, because we know that in certain localities, we still have a lot of culture governing the people. And so when we use the local authorities, the traditional authorities like chiefs, they are able to also come in to support the advocacy. So we've initiated what we're trying to do, like a tripartite engagement, where we get the citizens, their traditional leaders such as the chiefs, and the national authorities in a dialogue together on some of these issues. And for us, like Timothy said, it's very important that civil society at least creates some kind of relationship with government, at least some of the bodies. Like in Ghana, I know Timothy has similar thing with the parliament, but in Ghana, we have that kind of, CONIWAS has that collaboration with the Parliamentary Select Committee for Water Resources, Works and Housing. And so when we want to push issues, sometimes we also push through the parliament. We push through this committee because they are able to then use whatever researches we've done and engage with them to also engage with the wider parliament. So I think that we should get champions from other government bodies in our advocacy. Thank you.
Thanks, Basilia. It's a really good point, and I think it's similar to when McDonald was talking about the different kinds of civic space. I think it's a reflection of that, where in Ghana, you've got a more open civic space and you have a really good relationship as CONIWAS with the government. Likewise, Timothy in Liberia has a good relationship with Parliament. And then in other countries, it's a much more difficult space to navigate. And that relates to a couple of questions I had for McDonald about how the different tactics that you talk about have been received. I mean, you've got tactics that are more collaborative, And then you have ones that could be perceived as more confrontational, like the lodging of complaints and the occupation. So I just wondered, MacDonald, how did you effective have you found the different tactics? And how effective, particularly, there was a question from, I think, Alpha about working with national human rights commissions. How effective did you find that and working with these climate justice clubs, youth clubs? How effective did you find those two tactics in particular?
All right, thank you very much, Sam. So working through the water and climate justice hubs, it allowed for young people to take the lead in terms of trying to drive the different activities of the campaign. And because this is their community, you'd also find that in terms of how they engage, they also do it with the kind of rapport that allows for local relations to be built around trying to push and advance access on the right to water. So it has also been easy for these young people to gain audience before the local authorities. They've also gained a certain level of trust with local media houses. So they're also willing to document and even interview them on some of the interventions that they're doing. And it has also meant that these young people have got a greater appreciation of the right to water and how it relates and connects with other rights. And then in terms of our strategies, blending between confrontation and engagement, the context is ever shifting within our country. So there are small pockets where you can demand through some of the peaceful civic actions, but there are also moments where it's a bit difficult, where surveillance is high and you need to invest in either lobby or advocacy that is targeted at specific policymakers. And through working with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, they've been able to interact with our community concerning the right to water. They've also been able to receive complaints that were being lodged by the citizens. And there is now a constant back and forth between the community and also the local authority concerning issues to do with the right to water. And we've even begun to see a bit of movement in some of the big projects that involve government, like the construction of an alternative water source, the Muda Dam, and also the coming in of private players in terms of trying to provide water. And I think tapping into some of the previous presentations, we are now grappling with the prospects of privatization of some of that water within the district. Thank you.
Thanks, MacDonald. That's such an excellent answer. And again, it sounds like we should organize another discussion about that topic in particular, because as I say, I speak to so many members and it often comes up. We're a few minutes over time, but I don't want to stop this discussion really, because there's so much in the chat. So Fermin, go ahead.
Gracias, Sam. Sí, quería compartir que en América Latina tenemos muy presente la resistencia que ha habido en lugares como Cochabamba, Bolivia, a la privatización. Y eso es algo que, o sea, hay muchas lecciones pues, en distintos países sobre cómo la privatización ha generado más desigualdad. Entonces esto nos ha ayudado pues, como continente a poder tener como más esa claridad y organizarnos desde la sociedad civil para resistir la privatización. Sobre la pregunta que hacían en relación a las distintas estrategias de cómo fortalecer una lucha, pues también desde Redes del Agua y Cántaro Azul hemos observado estrategias importantes como la lucha por la defensa de los ríos y en contra de la presa El Zapotillo, una presa en el estado de Jalisco que iba a inundar tres poblaciones y también que lograron finalmente detener la altura de la presa para que no se inundaran las poblaciones. Y por otro lado también de luchas como la Copuda, esta coalición de pueblos originarios para lograr la primera concesión colectiva de agua que permitiera que siguieran utilizando sus usos y costumbres para evitar la sobreexplotación de las aguas subterráneas. Y lo que han hecho estos movimientos, y que también pues hemos tratado de replicar desde Redes del Agua, es una combinación de tener una sólida organización comunitaria, que eso es lo que da legitimidad y también que permite pues estar respondiendo a una necesidad muy clara y que con esta organización comunitaria pues se pueden activar recursos legales que pues hemos visto en países como México, donde el marco legal y jurídico va avanzando y reconociendo más los derechos, aunque en la práctica todavía no se materialicen. Entonces, la combinación de la organización comunitaria con los recursos legales ha sido muy importante, pero también ha sido fundamental la conformación de alianzas con múltiples organizaciones a distintas escalas, desde lo local, regional e internacional, y también las campañas de comunicación. Entonces, digamos que serían estos cuatro elementos. Quiero también compartir muy brevemente que los procesos de demanda jurídica como los amparos o de recursos legales, a nivel local han tenido una respuesta muy agresiva y violenta por parte de las autoridades, que se consideran como pues quienes deben tomar todas las decisiones, y cuando llega el poder judicial con una demanda, se van directamente sobre los grupos que la han estado impulsando. Entonces es muy riesgoso y este tipo de acciones con las autoridades locales. Sin embargo, con las autoridades federales hemos visto que el riesgo es menor. No es que no exista, pero es menor, y también hay una posibilidad pues grande de incidir y de buscar lograr esos cambios. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Fermin. We are over time, but would anyone else like to take the mic? I mean, there's some really great discussions happening in the chat. I've seen Violet a few times. Okay, people have just put their hand up. Eva, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I work in the organization called Right to Water in Serbia, and it really depends on your government and on your relations with institutions. And we're, I would say, practically locked in this circle where there's nothing else left to do than putting pressure on the institutions instead of, unfortunately, collaborating with them and offering solutions. We're more in defensive mode, constantly preventing something from happening. We have now a lot of problems with mining. It seems that there is some mining rush around Europe, but also in the outskirts of Europe, such as in Serbia and the whole Balkan Peninsula. And I really don't see, I mean, other than like huge political shift, I don't see how we can overcome this kind of defensive mode of constantly preventing something rather than being affirmative and progressive and going for still luckily a lot of water facilities and systems and services are not privatized, and that's also is putting us in defensive mode because we want it to stay in the hands of public. But what is happening now is that there are more and more bigger and bigger pressures to go in the private hands. And as we speak now, there is a struggle of one village in Serbia called Little Spring, translated Mali Izvor, and the people are really desperate. They even entered the local municipality assembly through the terrace by putting ladder on the terrace so they can enter the assembly and interrupt and prevent one small project that would affect their wells and drinking water. And in this kind of case, I can't really see that tomorrow this local government would say, yeah, we were in the wrong and sorry for this and the project will not be happening. there is, as someone said in the chat, there is a lot of money around it, and whenever it's so lucrative and so profitable, it's really hard to expect institutions to stay on the sides of the people whose lived experience is totally different than the huge campaigns of the companies. So I think also art, we also did a lot of murals and concerts and things for locally mobilizing people. But the most important is to connect and to create allies. And these allies are connected by creating a human perspective. So like all individual stories seem very, very small. But when you present it to the broader public, those are the ones that are actually connecting people and painting the real picture, how it is to struggle for basic human rights such as water. Thank you everyone for organizing this.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Eva. And it'd be great to be connected properly with your organization in Serbia. And I will, when I do organize this session on privatization, I'll let you know, because it sounds like your organization would have some great expertise to share as well. Violet, over to you.
So very briefly, it's just to reach out to I say the Nairobi Water Justice Network. I think somebody talked from that network, is to encourage the people in Nairobi to know the kind of injustices that are visited upon communities living upstream of the aquifers and the sources of water that supply the city. So we have many cases where now water is actually being privatized, by the water sources being privatized. The swamps that supply, or wetlands, which is a more polite way of calling it, those are being targeted for privatization, because when you privatize, like upstream of the Athi River is the Lari swamp, and it is the one that feeds the Roiro Dam, which supplies water to the city of Nairobi. So they are now targeting to say that they are quote unquote protecting the swamp, and they will then kick out communities who are living in a very big state of uncertainty, because their land is being targeted for grabbing, and it is because of the water that that region has, which is being targeted for supplying the city. So the injustices being visited upon one community because of the ability of communities in the cities to pay for water. And that water, they don't know where it's coming from. So we organized a meeting where we asked people from Nairobi to travel with us to go see where the water comes from. So we are hoping to have more of that collaboration within the Athi River Basin, so that communities can understand that wherever you're getting water from, if you don't know, it may be causing an injustice in another community unbeknownst to you. And the Nature Conservancy is targeting these aquifers. So they're targeting them for the cities. So another city they're targeting, the source of water is the city of Eldoret. And they're doing them through the carbon credit projects. So they have proposed a carbon credit project for the city of Eldoret, but the city of Eldoret gets its water from the neighboring county of Elgeyo Marakwet. So that the speaker from Mexico, the way he was talking about the different forms of privatization. I think with that session that you'll have on privatization, it's good to have that discussion of different ways the different ways water is being privatized, including aquifers and sources being actually the ones privatized.
Thanks, Violet. And I mean, if you would like to speak at that session, I think about that particular form of privatization as well, maybe we can discuss over email. And yeah, there are so many different forms. I mean, in the UK, where I'm based, we have a fully privatized model. I think one of the most financialized models of privatization in the world. I think no other country has actually followed, and it's just a disaster. So I'm hoping we'll also have a speaker from the UK who will share their efforts to campaigning for nationalisation here as well. It's really an issue that is affecting every region of the global end water poverty constituency. And I think the point you raised, Violet, about creating a solid sense of solidarity and unity between communities that, perhaps one is actually benefiting from the displacement or the depletion of another community's water. And I think that's something actually that McDonald, I know you've looked at this issue with the Muda Dam, and Kumbalani also in Zimbabwe has looked at this issue of creating solidarity and understanding between communities that are, tied, one's upstream, one's downstream. It's a really crucial part of your work. I don't know, McDonald, if you want to add anything to that, or if not, I mean, if anyone else wants to take the mic, Shana Seer, I can see you've put some, well, quite startling revelations in the chat. Yeah, the floor is open to anyone, really.
Hello, Sam.
Hi, McDonald, go ahead.
Yes, I think what I can say, interestingly, from the Kenyan experience, is also that one of the alternative sources that they also are now targeting are the aquifers that are within Chitungwiza district, and also that are close, where they are now partnering, where the local authority has engaged in a private partnership with a service provider to tap and source water from these aquifers. And I think for us working on the campaign, it's also going to introduce a very new nuance, which is around the privatization, because they are also even talking of introducing prepaid water meters as part of that initiative. They are also even looking at the period that they would need to recoup their initial investment from that particular community.
Thanks for that. I'm just checking you finished your point there, or? Yes. Okay. Yeah, prepaid meters is another, well, I think particularly pernicious form of privatization that some of our members in South Africa have also experienced and written and campaigned about. I'm going to close this soon, but I just think this is such a valuable discussion. Durga, I see you're on the line. I just wondered if you wanted to share any expertise or any comments from the Feminist Dalit organization's work. There's no pressure to take the mic, but just saying the opportunity there if you would like to. Same for you, Shana Seer, as well, but I also understand if you prefer just to keep it into the chat for now, and there'll be another opportunity to talk about, yes, the experience with the water tanker mafias in Pakistan. Durga or Shana Seer, would you like to take the mic?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam, and thank you for all the presenters. A very good presentation. And actually, this is an eye-opener for the civil society. And the problem is not country-specific. And the collective efforts, we cannot stand against the government and the powerful mafia. But how we can tackle and partner with the communities, because water is basically it's a public good. It's not a private commodity, and it's not only for the bottled water company to sell their and on millions and billions. I think that we need to think, and even I think in water poverty is the appropriate forum to have or even strengthening the same task team, or even or think for in a separate task team to build some synergy and build some workable solution. And I think we are not alone. Thousands of people are facing these problems in North, in South, in East, and West. So I think, like in South Asia, PC is here, we are the quarter of the world population living in these three countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India. So, and people are paying $1 million of rupees on daily basis. And they are like in one of our city, Karachi, they are facing water shortage. And this is not the actual water shortage. It's basically the main created water shortage. And the water board and the tanker mafia and even the people controlling, managing, and supervising the water supply, they are on millions. So I think my proposal that we should have a separate task team and even strengthening the same task team. We are also working since long, and because this is basically a human rights violation. If the private sector or the corporate sector, if they are in the forefront and in partnership with the government, robbing people. So I think the civil society, with the support of some influential people and some decision maker at the local level, at the subnational level, and even the national level. So we can create a situation where people will raise their voices. So that's what I'm thinking.
Thanks, Shanasir. Maybe we can take that as a proposal when we have this next session on privatisation, a proposal that there is maybe a separate task team to look at this issue and maybe develop a campaign. I mean, obviously we're only a two-person secretariat at the moment, but you know, I think let's see what we can do, and if it's just an issue that comes up so commonly, I think it's a really good suggestion. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna close this at past. Sorry, I know we're 20 minutes over. I just wanted to check if Asif or if Durga would like to take the mic, as I know you were keen before, but there's no pressure. Okay, Asif and Durga, I'm going to take that as a no, but you're very welcome to comment in the chat or another time. Would any of our panelists like to add some closing remarks, or are you satisfied? You feel you've said what you want to say? Sean, McDonald, Amin?
All good for me. Yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch or anything like that, I'll put in my details and feel free to get in touch to see if there's any overlaps in anything, or just ask Sam for my details. But yeah, thank you for the rich discussion.
Likewise with me, Sam.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Famin. Is that the same for you, McDonald?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, great. And yeah, I can put, if anyone would like to get in touch, and you don't have the emails of your coalition colleagues, please just let me know and I'll see if I can connect you. I think one of our greatest strengths as a coalition is our ability to connect advocates and activists working in maybe seemingly different contexts, but with a lot of similarities and a lot of solidarity as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's been a fairly small webinar, but a very, very lively discussion. I also just want to say, as well as a massive thank you to the presenters, but also our interpreters, Rita and Sabina, who have joined us at very late notice to provide interpretation for this webinar and have provided an extra 20 minutes of interpretation too. So thank you very much, particularly to...
Thank you, Sean, for this.
Thank you
so much.
And I also just want to say, before we close, I've just put a link to the People's Water Forum registration and website in the chat. And yeah, thank you very much to everyone for attending at late notice. I want to remind you the People's Water Forum will run next week from the 20th to the 23rd of May. There'll be a number of plenaries on different topics, including building solidarity, the power of social movements, the state of the human rights to water. And there'll be, in some of those plenaries, there'll be some EWP members participating and speaking. And then on the final day of the forum, there's going to be a people's tribunal where communities whose water rights have been violated will give testimony in front of a jury of peers and water experts. And the plan, I think, is for these plenaries to be streamed online. So please remember to register through the People's Water Forum website. I've just posted the link in the chat, so you can receive updates and support colleagues. And I'll also be sharing some event summaries and some streaming links where possible via End Water Poverty's social media. So please look out there as well. And thank you. I'm also going to be sharing information about some of our other mobilizations via our newsletter as well, and some of upcoming events. So please check the newsletter. And thank you once again, everyone, for contributing to this exchange, and for such a lively and engaging discussion, and for all of your support and solidarity in furthering the cause for water justice. So thank you, everyone.
Sam. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sam.
you. Thank you,
so
Sam.
much, Sam.
Gracias.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Sam.